So once the loading screen is done with Premiere, you should have some kind of opening box like this. We're gonna click on New Project, and then we're gonna call our new project whatever we wanna call it. Let's call it, I don't know, How to Plant. Keep it simple. And then we're gonna put it in whatever location we wanna put it in. So we're gonna hit that Browse button and save it wherever we wanna save it. I'm currently going to save it on the desktop in the How to Plant footage that I have provided. I have a duplicate of everything I have provided for you to follow along and edit. And I'm gonna make a new folder in this main folder, and I'm going to call it Premiere. And I'm gonna choose and put it in there. And the reason for that is I find that whenever I'm editing a video for YouTube, I like to have all the footage for that video, all the assets, images, everything like that, all in one place. I think that makes it a lot easier to reference if you ever need to come back to a video, re-edit it, change some things. You're not looking for media everywhere. So I find that keeping everything all in one root folder is really good, especially when it comes to all of the Premiere assets that come along. Now, don't really worry too much about the rest of everything that's in this box. I think the main thing to make sure is head over to Scratch Disks and make sure all of them are same as the project. I think that's the best thing for when you're trying to, again, edit specifically in a YouTube type environment. Hitting same as project is gonna be really good because again, it's gonna put everything in that Premiere folder that you've created. So go ahead and hit OK. Now when Premiere finally opens up, it should look something like this. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through how to make sure the layout for Premiere looks like mine, so that way we're on the same page. So let's go ahead and click at the very top here. You'll see this row of different layouts that you can choose from. Go ahead and just hit Editing. And you'll see that changes the whole layout. Now, before I get into each of the different panels that I think you'll need to edit this how-to video, let's go ahead and import our footage so that way you can see it, because I think once we import the footage, that'll help with explaining everything as well. So the way to import footage, you can hit Command-I if you're on a Mac, or I believe it's Control-I if you're on a PC. And then we're going to head over to wherever you have saved the footage that I provided for you. So mine is again on the desktop, and you'll see I have it organized by assets, footage, images, music, and then our new Premiere folder that we have created. So obviously we're not going to import the Premiere folder itself because that doesn't make sense, but we can go ahead and highlight all 4 of those folders and then hit import. All right, so you'll see that it has dropped all of the different folders that I had created for you, assets, footage, images, music, everything you'll need to edit this video together. It is now all in what is called the project panel. And that's basically a space where you can organize all of the different clips and media that you bring into your project to begin to work. If for some reason Premiere hasn't created these bins for you, it's just kind of dropped everything in, you can create these bins and name them yourself. I'll show you how to do that now. The first way is you can go down to the bottom, this little folder, and if you see I hover on it, it says New Bin. You can click that and a new bin will come up. You can then type in whatever you want to type in, let's say Music 2 or Music 1, sure. And then drag and drop things into it. So if I wanted to put this image into there, I can. And that's something you can do. Another way you can create a new bin is to also just hit Command-B, Control-B, and that'll also bring up a new bin. Throughout this class, I'm gonna tell you the shortcuts because I really think that knowing the shortcuts is what will help you to become a much more proficient and faster editor, which is that's the name of the game. So I really would recommend, it gets a little annoying at first, but I really would recommend learning the shortcuts. I will be using them to edit this as we go. I think it's really important to do that. So let's get into the rest of the interface now that we've imported our footage. If you need to pause for a second so you can organize things the way you want, feel free, but let's keep moving forward. So go ahead and after you've organized everything to your liking, everything looks pretty good, go ahead and hit Command S, Control S, and let's save. You want to make sure you save often, so that way you don't end up losing your footage or losing the project, everything you've worked hard for. Save often, always, all the time. So the last thing I want to do in this project panel before we move forward is let's go ahead and make a sequence bin, Command B or Control B if you're on a PC, and let's call this sequences. And this is where we're going to save the actual timeline of what our video, our final how-to video will look like. It'll be the compilation of all the footage we've pulled in and all the selects we've made. So we'll call this sequence, and then I want you to go ahead and hit Command N, Control N. And it's going to bring up this new sequence box. Again, if you don't want to do that, you can go down to the bottom here and do new item and go up to sequence. Now, the footage I have given you was shot on my Sony a7 III, so it's going to be a digital SLR 1080p, and it's going to be at 1080p 24 frames per second. Now, if for some reason you don't actually know what the specifications of your footage are, if you just pick something random and hit OK and then drop your footage in, it'll auto-correct and ask if you would like it to adjust based on what your footage actually is. And usually it's going to be a good guess to say yes. So let's go ahead and name our sequence How to Plant again. We're going to be a little redundant. And we're going to hit OK. And now we have our program monitor open, and you can see How to Plant. We have our timeline available here. Our frame rate is there. And then you also see in our timeline panel right here, things have changed as well. So let's get into what some of these panels mean and some of the basics of it, and let's keep moving forward. So let's start over here on the left side, which is our source panel. As you can see right now, it says no clip. And if any of these panels are not appearing for you, again, head over to Window and you can make sure that they pop up as we keep going. So if for some reason any of them don't pop up, head over to Window at the top and pick whatever panel I am describing. And then it should appear for you. So first, we're going to talk about the source panel. This is where you can see the footage or assets that you've imported without actually putting them into the finished product or the timeline itself. So, for example, if I go to images and click here, it's going to bring up this image, and now I can see that it's there and what it looks like, and just basically a bigger view of what it is. The source panel will be good when you're trying to make selects from the footage that you've captured and bring them into your video timeline. So that's the source panel. That brings me to our timeline, which is this area down here. Think of the timeline as where you will actually build the video itself. All the compilations of the different cuts, of the different clips you've used, where you'll add your graphics, effects, that will all live down here in this timeline. It consists of a few video tracks and a few audio tracks. The main thing to remember with this is whatever is highlighted is where you can be the most active. So if you're ever working on a section of a video and you don't want that track to change really, you can adjust by making sure it is not highlighted. Let's go ahead and just drop some footage into it so you can just see what that looks like. So we're going to head over to footage. Let's hit Cam A. And I'm going to scrub through it a little bit in my timeline so you can see up here. And this is called your playhead, this little blue arrow. So we're going to scrub through a little bit, and as you can see, that I have put to Leica is Marble Nuggets, that's his name. So our footage is there, and that's how we're able to watch that clip without having to put it into the timeline. Let's just go ahead and drag and drop it. Don't worry about doing anything crazy awesome, but literally click on this, drag, holding, and drop, and you'll see now it has been presented into our timeline, and it now appears in our program, which shows you essentially what the video is that you're building. You can see that even people that have been on YouTube for a while. Now, I like to drag and drop. I think that's the easiest way to do it. just for me and my style of editing. But another way to add footage into your timeline as you're picking things out is to use these little buttons over here, the insert and the overwrite. Go ahead and play with them a little bit if you want. But to insert, hit the button, it's gonna drop it down. You'll notice how it dropped it into the second A2 audio panel, and that's because this insert overwrite is highlighted here. If I moved it up, and then hit insert again, you see it would add it on the top audio layer. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is we're using the insert. So all it's going to do is whatever is there already in the timeline, it is going to insert whatever you put in after it. Now, if you wanted to maybe put something in front of this or around it, for example, then we would want to hit the overwrite button. And you'll see how it has taken up the space now of what was originally there. It has overwritten the information that was in that area. So go ahead and take a minute and kind of play around with that if you want. Again, for me and my style of editing, I usually just like to drag and drop, but I know a lot of other editors that really enjoy using the overwrite and the insert buttons. Using your keyboard shortcuts is always a good thing. So insert is the comma and overwrite is period. So keep that in mind. Now let's check out our effects control panel, because this is another panel you'll use quite a bit. It's over here usually next to the source panel at the top. And when you do that, that brings up some different effects that you'll need to kind of know about as you're starting to do some basic graphics and whatnot. So you can change position, scale, rotation. I'll just show you a little bit. So you can change the scale there, position of the footage, right? Here, really simple stuff. And all of this will make more sense as we keep going throughout the class, so don't freak out. Rotation of the footage itself. You can do a lot of awesome stuff in here. And this is just a good panel to be aware of because we will be using it in this class to do some tweaks. The next panel I'm going to talk about that I think is important to know is the effects panel. So this is the effects controls, and this is the actual effects panel. Here's where you can add different effects to the footage, your audio as well. And when you do that, they will also appear in your effects control panel, so that way you can make tweaks and adjustments in that panel itself. So think of the effects panel as just where they all live, and then the effects control panel as where you can tweak them. The next panel we're going to talk about is the essential graphics panel. For me, it's on the right side over here. And then again, one more time, if you are not seeing these panels pop up, go over to Window, and you can find them there and click on them, and then they'll appear for you. So the Essential Graphics panel, this is actually where you can build different little graphical templates, if you will. And Adobe offers a lot of them for free. In a later class, we will go over finding them and using them. As you can see, I have quite a few because I use them often. But we're going to end up using this panel because this is also not only where you can get free templates to build graphics in, but if you create any graphics for yourself, you can edit them using the Essential Graphics panel. So this is going to be a good panel for us to use. It'll be a good time. The next one we're going to talk about is the Essential Sound panel. Again, if it doesn't appear for you, head over to Window, hit Essential Sound panel. And this is how we'll make some different audio tweaks, editing, how we'll balance our music. It'll all be done in this panel. And then final, our Lumetri color. This is where we'll do very, very basic color correction for our video. As you can see, we'll be able to mess with the temperature if we want to, right? We'll be able to mess with the temperature a little bit. We'll be able to mess with exposure, and all of that sort of fun stuff. Again, I will go over some of the basics of color correction. I won't get too much into it. I would rather you play around and enjoy yourself. Okay, so that's the basics of the Premiere Pro interface. Obviously, I didn't show you all the panels that you would need. I just wanted to focus on the panels that we're gonna use to edit our how-to video. So go ahead and save again if you haven't already. And in the next class, I'm going to show you exactly how to begin to construct your A-roll cut, which is the main footage, the main informational footage of your video.